Welcome to the Brand Clarity Podcast, hosted by Visions to Images and Susie Liberatore. The Brand Clarity Podcast highlights several different topics, including entrepreneurship, franchises, and digital marketing trends. Visions to Images helps corporations and franchises with their branding, website, paid advertising, and digital marketing.
Hello, everybody. Today on the podcast, I have Michael Reeder. He's the owner of Reeder CPA Group. And we've met through FBA, Springboard, LinkedIn. We've done all of the different connections. And I'm super excited to have you on because I do not know that much about you, your CPA, all of that fun stuff. So tell us first a little bit about how you got started. Why did you niche down into franchising?
Great question, Susie. And it's great to be with you here today. My name is Michael Reeder. I'm a CPA. I'm the owner of Reeder CPA Group. I now own the firm that hired me out of college. I'm 37 years old. I've been in public practice as a CPA, right, as a certified public accountant for approximately the past 14 years. And I've carved out a niche for myself as a CPA in the franchise industry, working with franchisee businesses for approximately the past 9 years. And so I got into the franchise niche as a CPA right within those first 5 years when I was in public practice. It was around, I've been in public practice since about 2010. And it was around 2014, I acquired a small book of business in the greater Chicago area. I'm originally from Chicago. I still have an office in Chicago, and I have an office in Portland, Maine now. I live in Portland, Maine. But anyways, one of the clients in the book of business that we acquired for our CPA firm, he was a self-employed franchise consultant. And at that time, I had never heard of what a I didn't know what a franchise consultant was. Franchise broker, franchise consultant, career ownership coach, they're that sort of franchise professional, that third party, that connects prospective franchisees with franchisors, operates similar to how like a recruiter or headhunter operates between their employer clients and, prospective job candidates. When I was working on his taxes that year, right, like in 2014, I met him for the first time working on his 2013 taxes. And hey, like, what is a franchise consultant? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you make money? And he explained it, thought it was really interesting. And, and I told him, hey, if you need me to be like I'm here to be a CPA resource, for your candidates, as they have questions about, they might have questions about, hey, how should I structure my entity? How should I fund my business? Various different questions about like tax strategy for small business owners, item 19 and 21 and item 6 and item 7 of the franchise disclosure document, pro forma financials for like their SBA loan application, resale financial statement due diligence. If they need to look at a seller's financial statements, they're getting a resale. So he took me up on my offer. I had these CPA consultation calls with his prospective franchise buyers. Naturally, some of them became clients. And so I pretty much am doing that exact same process now, 9 years later, at, just like doing it at a much larger scale. And things have only been snowballing in the most positive way. I have a nation. I started like after that, I started to network with other franchise professional, like franchise consultants on LinkedIn. That's how I connected with Sabrina Wall. Shout out to Sabrina FBA. Connected with her early on back in like 2015 and became affiliate CPA of FBA since 2016. And then more, I've been affiliate CPA of IFPG like since 2020, FranServe since 2022. I've got a relationship with the U Network. Shout out to Carl Morningstar. But then I've also cultivated a relationship with consultants with other networks. And I'm not the affiliate, right? But just one-on-one connections through LinkedIn with consultants that are with FranChoice, FranNet, FCC, and the Entrepreneur Source, and so and also some franchisors, some like brand portfolios. And so just a CPA resource for the franchisees, and to just dive into any questions that they have in the context of entity structure, funding, tax strategy, blah blah blah. And so. I work with a lot of veterans. So, it's such an honor. Very familiar with the Rob C Corp structure. In my industry, like we're talking about, there's always like deadlines. It's like January through April is busy with tax season. It slows down after April, then it picks up again. Like right now, we're kind of in mini tax season from late August through October 15th. But regardless of the peaks and valleys in the accounting and tax industry with deadlines, what's a constant at Reeder CPA Group is we are talking to franchise buying candidates like as a CPA resource, to answer the entity structure, funding, et cetera, related questions throughout 12 months out of the year, no matter what. And there's never a dull moment, and it's super fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many organizations to be a part of, and it's always in my mind, like which ones are the best ones and who to pick. So do you only work with consultants? Do you work with franchisors? Do you work with suppliers? Like what is your specialty?
My specialty, I experimented being a CPA, and my internet could be unstable. So I apologize if it's a little choppy, but I experimented, I contemplated being a CPA resource for the actual franchisors as well. A franchisor is a different animal. They're obviously a bigger organization. There's more that goes into it. Not saying that we can't do it. They have to do their Item 21 audit, as part of FTC requirements for their annual FTD renewal. The franchisor itself is a different animal, and maybe I'll have a resource for the franchisor as a CPA for the franchisors in the future. But I just decided to niche down and just triple down on like what has been my bread and butter since I got into this industry as a CPA, which is being a CPA for the franchisees and connecting with franchisors to add value to them by being a CPA resource for their franchisees as opposed to the CPA for the franchisor itself. So yeah, I do have a relationship with some brand portfolios as well, but in the context of being a CPA resource for their franchisees.
No, that makes perfect sense. Right. I like that. And then you also work with the franchise consultants, right? Exactly.
Being a CPA resource for their franchise consultants and for franchisors as a CPA resource for their franchisees, for the consultants, right? For their franchise buying candidates, they're going through the process. They maybe have it narrowed down to 2 or 3 different brands. And they're gonna make a decision on one of them. And they're getting to that point where it's like, hey, should I go LLC or C corporation? Should I go SBA or roll over 401k Robs? I have no idea. Talk to Mike, and then like we dive into it, and then we determine the strategy, and we go back to the consultant with the game plan, go back to the franchisor with the game plan, and then they go to whoever they're working with, respectively for like, the SBA loan or the Robs. Shout out to companies like, Fran Fund, Benetrends, Guidant, Tenant, all of those companies.
That makes perfect sense. That's great. How did you know which organizations to join and be a part of? I mean, you mentioned like FBA and IFPG and all those. Did you just kind of say, heck yeah, we're joining?
Once, it's, as Susie, like the franchise community is a really like tight-knit community. So like once you start, doing research and stuff, there's like between 8 and 10 of them, right? So it's not like there's a million of them. Like when I started researching them, started Googling like franchise consultant, FBA would just pop up at the top of page 1 of Google.
Yeah.
So, that's Chris Wall. I think that's got something to do with Chris Wall. He's like a computer genius. So like that's how I reached out to FBA, right? And then so I built momentum with FBA, and as I started to network more on LinkedIn, I just naturally, I came across the other networks. But FBA is always going to have a special place in my heart because Sabrina recognized early on like the value of the process that I bring to add value as a CPA resource for franchise consultants and their franchise buying candidates. And so shout out, kudos to Sabrina for realizing that, for seeing that. And her and I formed a great relationship back in 2015, 2016. Wanda and Amanda, I've known them since like day one, back when I, got into the industry as a CPA, and they're great.
Yeah, they're amazing. Hey there, I want to interrupt this episode with a quick message. If you're listening to this podcast episode and want to learn about branding your franchise or small business, then go to brandingbridge.com. That's branding-bridge.com. Tell me about your LinkedIn marketing, because I love marketing. What kind of outreaches have you found, or how do you do it overall? Because there's so many tactics and it's always changing and evolving. So what have you found has worked for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Susie. And you're absolutely right. It's always changing. Like LinkedIn just like other platforms, like, they're always switching things up. Their algorithm is always like rewarding certain type of behavior and, the opposite of rewarding other type of behavior. Back in like the Wild West days of LinkedIn, back in like the early 2010s, you can just like send a bajillion connection requests and be all good, And now if you do that for just like a hot minute, you'll get flagged and, at risk of being, suspended. Not that I did that, but like, like there were times back in like early 2010s, like, hey, rapid fire, just send like a bunch of connection requests, and like with no risk of like, getting suspended or blocked or anything like that. So I would do like rapid fire connecting with a bunch of franchise professionals. But LinkedIn in 2024 is a song and dance. It's a three-headed monster. Commenting, right? Like in-depth commenting, right? Engaging on other people's posts. Like not just like, hey, great post, but like an actual comment on the post. Like, I have a member on my team who's in my LinkedIn, who ghostwrites for me, but he's not, like him, he ghostwrites after lots of in-depth conversations being in my head for several years. He knows how I think and everything like that. He's familiar with the industry. So commenting on other people's posts, like substantive comments, right? Like that, doing that for, like watering that garden for like, 5 hours a week. So that, and then just creating content, right? It's like, we're in 2024, you have to create content. Like here we are today, and I'm so humbled and honored to be a guest on your podcast, right? It's like, we're recording a podcast right now, and it's like, this is going to be long form edited and then also chopped up with micro clips. You know what I'm saying? So, and then also just direct message, right? Like cold LinkedIn message outreach on LinkedIn. It's good to do the, but like it's all connected, right? Because it's like if you're commenting on other people's posts and then you wait like, after 2 or 3 months of like engaging on their posts and then send them a direct message. And then while all that's going on, like you're creating content. So like your profile has engagement. So it's like a beautiful symphony orchestra, right? The three-headed monster of commenting on other people's posts, creating your own content, written and video, direct LinkedIn messaging with intentionality, timing it all. It's not so cold, but it's like semi lukewarm / warm because you've like been engaging with them via comments for like the 2 or 3 months leading up to like that direct message.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's pretty similar to what we do as well and or do for clients and stuff too. It just depends on how in depth it goes. But it like the messaging doesn't always work unless you do A and B, right? So it's like you need to create those other pieces. And it's always like when people come to me for lead generation, they're like, well, what do we want to do? And I'm like, well, we have to do X, X, X to get to Z, right? And so it's like you have to have that funnel built and know the strategy behind not only what they're trying to achieve, but how to get there. So I love that.
In my opinion, it's like you have to give it a good faith effort. You have to water all 3 of those gardens for like 12 months, like do it for a year and then observe the sample size. Like I see a lot of people like trying it for a few weeks to a month and then like they stop. Creating content, like video, creating content is like a long play. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I know exactly what you're saying. And people get frustrated so easily because they're like, oh, it's not working. Well, if you weren't consistent, we don't really know if it's working. Sometimes that working comes like months or years later. So it's like, you can't just say it's not working because I've ran into that myself. So what is, if somebody doesn't have a CPA or they're just kind of getting started in the franchise industry, what is the number one thing they should do today in order to get that ready?
To understand that your relationship with your CPA is an investment and not a cost. You want to have a CPA that provides, that's a tax strategist, not just a tax preparer. It's implied that within, tax strategy that, your taxes are going to get prepared. Like that's a given, but it's the advice on top of that where the real magic happens. Cause it's the dialogue throughout the year between client and CPA where tax strategies are being discussed and those tax strategies are being implemented and those tax strategies are leading to, thousands of dollars of tax savings year over year over year. And if you have a relationship with your tax preparer, right? And it's just like, hey, it's March, April, let me get my taxes done. Here's like 12 months of like bank statements and It's like, all right, here's your tax return. It's like, all right, do I owe money this year or do I get a refund? Oh, I get a refund. I'm going on. That's my spring break spending money, like, like if that's the relationship, if that's the extent of the relationship, then it's very, it's not, as optimal as it should be. Money's probably being left on the table. Like we're like everyone listening now, like, Susie and I are recording this. It's October 2nd of 2024. And so over at Reeder CPA Group, like we are lining up my schedule and the schedule of my tax professional team. We're just lining up consultation calls with existing clients because we're diving into year-end 2024 tax planning between now and 12/31. And because we're having these conversations, we're going to be able to do things that are going to save money in taxes for our clients. And so, if we're not having these conversations and we don't meet up with our clients until like March or April of 2025, then we're leaving money on the table. And so, you want to make sure that you have a relationship with a CPA firm that is proactive and quality and strategic with their advice while being able to like deliver on that quality advice and services at reasonable price points. And so that's what we're all about.
I love it. That was a perfect answer. And then the last question is like, what is your best advice that you could give somebody about CPA?
So it's a great question. So I would say, like, I'll say it in the context of, a small business owner, right? Because like at the end of the day, like we're a CPA firm. And just for everyone out there, just in case, CPA acronym for Certified Public Accountant, Reeder CPA Group is a CPA firm for small businesses and individuals. And we have a niche working with franchisee businesses as well as real estate professionals and real estate investors. Now, with all that being said, the best advice that I have is really just like, hey, like, again, and if I sound like a broken record, good, because I'm trying to drill it into all y'all's head, is good communicator and proactive with the strategy, because just preparing taxes alone is not enough. And also you got to be able to be responsive, right? Like a lot of CPAs out there are having a tough time with like scaling. They have too much business that they can handle. And if you're trying to reach out to a CPA and they're just, slow to respond, then that's a red flag. And then if it's just like, hey, just come during March, April during tax season, like that's a red flag. Like you're probably leaving money on the table. So you want to look for if you're a small business owner, whether you're just getting started or you're looking for a new CPA, you want that optimal CPA relationship to be with a CPA that is very responsive and very proactive with the strategy, right? On top of just filing taxes.
I love it. Yes. And I think that's important for anything in life, is having a strategy, especially in business, right? Like a strategy for your marketing, a strategy for operations, a strategy for HR. Like all of the things matter. We can't just be doing it and not have something in place. So it all ties together for that importance. We can't just half-ass it, to be honest, right?
Amen. You're absolutely right, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. If anybody wants to learn more or get in touch with you, what's the best way?
So my website, reedercpagroup.com. That's REEDER, reedercpagroup.com. Michael Ian Reeder on LinkedIn, CPA, Reeder CPA Group. I'm on Facebook as well. My email is michael@reedercpagroup.com. And so there are a variety of ways to get a hold of me. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we can definitely get a free initial consultation call on the books. If you reach out via the website or LinkedIn or email, et cetera, me and my team would love to talk to you. And Susie, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on and sharing. Thank you, everybody, for listening in on today's Brand Clarity episode with Susie Liberatore. 2 things. First and foremost, please, if you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave some positive reviews. Also, don't forget to sign up for Stop Sending Your Customers to the Competition and get my insider secrets to compelling branding that converts. You can find that at branding-bridge.com. It's a free workbook for you to check out right now, all of the branding techniques and strategies that I use for my paying clients.